All right, it says we're live.
Yeah, it does.
So I guess that means we're live. And I guess that means I'm Brent Leary.
I don't actually think that means I'm Paul Greenberg, but I am.
Who am I? I'm Brian Solis.
All right, so I guess that does mean we are the CRM Playaz back in a new decade, 2020. Wow.
Yeah, at your ages, that's okay for me. Right? It's like new decade means like 70, And
hey,
last time I used 70 was the 70s. Right?
Hey, I think that's a cool badge of honor, man. I mean, that's first of all, nobody would ever guess that you were 70. I mean, everybody that I talk to, they're like, "What? He's what? No way." So,
fact though, and I'll tell you what, as I don't feel 70. I may not look 70. No one would guess 70, but time says otherwise. Time is a decision. You are 70.
Well, before we go too far, I want to say this segment of the CRM Playaz is brought to you by PG&E because, and I'll let Brian fill you in on why that's the case.
Oh yeah, thank you PG&E for sponsoring this show. It was fantastic. We took a first go around yesterday, and as we were about to go live, my power completely shut off. I had to text Paul, my power's out. My wife went on the PG&E app to see what was going on, and it said your service outage is affecting 14 people, and due to scheduled maintenance, of which no one knew about this. So thank you again, PG&E. That's fantastic.
Were Brent and I included in that 14?
Yeah,
well, we were affected because
we were definitely
virtually.
Well, did it feel like you won something? Because it's like you're one of the 14.
I had to work remotely yesterday, and as I was driving down the street and turning the corner, I saw a bunch of trucks working on a pole. So I think it was definitely more than 14 people working on it. That's for sure.
Jeez. Well, we're just glad. We're just glad you're back.
The funny thing was, I mean, it literally was 12:01 when it happened.
I know we
12:01. We were starting at 12.
My finger was on the trigger, and then Brian was gone. I thought, man, did I do that?
Makes me think there might have been more to it.
And you're canceled.
All right. Well, hey, I'm glad we're all here, and it's cool to be. What is this, year 11 of the CRM Playaz?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
11. Amazing.
And it was about time that we did a little changing. So we have, and I'm cool that we are able to say Brian Solis, is the very first Playa in residence. I think that's kind of cool.
I think that's amazing. Actually, we need you to boost our ratings.
Well, hopefully not a decline in ratings.
You will.
I'll do my best.
You have a hell of an audience, dude. I'll tell you.
Absolutely. So, all right. 2020, new decade. New decade for the CRM industry, new decade for CRM Playaz. What we thought we would do to kick off the 2020 year of the CRM Playaz is I almost feel like this is like the CRM Playaz version of Festivus, because we're going to talk about the things. Do we want to talk about the things we want to see? We want to air any grievances. If any of you guys want to do any feats of strength, that's cool too. But let's talk about what we want to see out of the CRM industry in 2020. I'm going to let whoever wants to just come out of the gate, come with something that they really want to see from the CRM industry, from vendors, from events. Tell us what the thing that is burning that you want to talk about, that you want to see happen in 2020.
I got some.
I knew you were going to be the first one.
No more forecasts. Too late. Too late. Oh, damn, man. No more forecasts. No more predictions. No more any of that crap because it's all conjectural BS, right?
Oh, man, well, I better go.
I used to look, I used to do forecasts all the time and predictions and what the trends are, and so on. And then I quit because I realized, oh well, here's the way I kind of defined it when I got it right. Oh well, that was a lucky guess, right? Oh, that was wow. How did I figure that out? How did I even know that was a trend or figure that out? I mean, you don't know. Who the hell knows, right? You know what? The funny thing about every trend I ever read, especially when it comes from the vendors themselves, is somehow it achieves something in their self-interest, no matter what. Nothing bad ever happens to what they do, ever. We're going to see a decline in the industry this year.
So you're trying to tell me that whatever they say is going to be a trend, that it aligns perfectly with the messaging that they have for the year?
Let's say it aligns with their roadmaps and messaging and product portfolios and their objectives. It's funny how they never predict anything negative that would impact them, right? Like it can't never happen.
Incredible alignment.
I know. They're just brilliant. That's all you can say. They're extremely brilliant. So, and look, I can live with analyst trends somewhat because it's kind of what we have to do, but I don't have to do them, but but they do. They they. But most of them are wrong anyway. So I mean, for example, and this is one I actually like. It's one I adhere to. You read the market sizing predictions, right?
Right.
So Gartner will predict, let's say, and I'm not picking on Gartner. It's just Gartner's actually the ones I consider the most reliable, really. But they'll say the CRM market will be or $41.78 billion. How do you possibly predict 0.78 of anything, right? How is that even possible? Like, how in the world are you figuring it out at that level?
All they do is say it was 40 billion this year. I think it's going to grow 3.5%. Yeah. And then they just multiply that and say it's going to be 43.2 billion or something.
Although, as I used to call that, lucky guess. So it's too late for me to actually see what I want because everyone's done their predictions already. So I call that for 2021. Right? No more forecasts, no more predictions, especially from vendors.
All right, Mr. Solis, what do you got?
I have aspirations, more like hope of what I'd like to see happen, and a lot of that just.
Oh no!
I know.
Right when he was going to tell us what he wanted to see.
PG&E is working.
PG&E, they struck again. Oh man, I hope he comes back.
We'll see.
That was terrible. Right when he was going to tell us what he wanted to see the most. Oh, now he's just
wow!
Look at that. Sorry, PG&E.
That's right. They were just basically saying, "Don't say anything about us.
Don't make fun of us.
Keep us out of this."
Good times.
That was amazing.
I think. So one of the things that I'll just warn you ahead of time that since the power has come back on is that my router is going nuts, and I've had to reboot it a few times. So if that happens, it'll take me 1 minute to fix something else. But as I was saying about my prediction, one of the things that we all notice is that there's a lot of whatever the trend is. Everybody's suddenly on that trend, whether or not those capabilities are actually real or not. So that way, for example, AI in the enterprise, AI in CRM, AI in UX and UI, and my aspirations are that we could just be a little bit more transparent. Here's what we're really doing. Why don't you tell us what you need? What are some of the problems? And let's solve them together because at the end of the day, CRM is still about as much about employee experience as it is about customer experience. And I just want to see a little bit more humanity back in the equation.
Humanity.
Good luck on that one.
In CRM? Come on, man. I mean,
that's like taking it back to what we wanted it to be 20 years ago.
Right.
Boy, you said, oh yeah, 2020.
20. Oh, that's right.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So I got one. I have one.
Right.
I want to see more humanity in the conferences we got.
Less people, more humanity.
Oh, I think I went to 25 conferences last year, and I know you guys go to more than that. So,
nope.
All in all, I thought the conference season last year is pretty good, but I do want to see one thing, and one additional thing, at least at one of these conferences. I want to see me DJing at one of these conferences. They always have the cool DJ stand, and you kind of look cool sitting there in amongst all the thousands of people. I can do that. I would love to do that one year, just once. Like be up there, everybody kind of circling around the DJ booth, and I'm the guy they're circling around. Come on.
Well, I mean, you know what? This should have happened so many different times already. I saw Ray do it. I saw Ray DJing.
Oh, he did a great job.
He Oracled at Oracle MCX years ago at the what's the name of that? Hakkasan.
Hakkasan.
At Hakkasan, right?
That was really cool,
and he was great. I mean, I actually I still have somewhere. I have to find it, but
oh my God,
a video of Ray.
I have it too. I have it on my phone.
That's where it is. I think it's on my last phone. Or something. I lost it, right? So, but I mean, he was really good, old school, right?
I'm doing old school hip hop and house music. That's old kind of what's it? Not EDM stuff, but I'm 80s and 90s. Give me that. There's a lot of people that like that too. So
everybody likes that.
I'm saying, look, Dreamforce, maybe there's only 180,000 people. I can handle that.
Brenda, is this an advertisement? Are you putting yourself out there?
Brought to you by
PG&E.
Anyway, no, I'm just having fun with that. The thing that I do want to see more of, the only one vendor that talked about mixed reality last year, and I think it's going to be, I mean, Brian, you were at CES, right? I mean, so Delta did this amazing, presentation that had remnants of that. They actually went above it. Yeah. But I think I only heard mixed reality brought up by Microsoft last year. And when you talk about customer engagement and opportunities to change experiences, mixed reality really has a potential for really creating some cool experiences that are very engaging and could create some real connectivity to customers over time. I want to see, something other than, I know AI is important, but I would love to see something different kind of resonate and get a little bit of traction this year. And, mixed reality, I think, has a chance of doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of the vendors were playing with VR, we saw it on stage at varying times too.
Right. But they didn't really call it out. It was just like, it was there. I mean,
well, I mean, occasionally they do a demo, but why do you need, it was sort of like, why do you need VR for that kind of demo? Right. It was like, we're doing VR. Oh, great. For what? What reason? You do, you do sales optimization. I'm not really sure how that needs a VR demo, right? But, so I agree. But I mean, the thing with mixed reality, augmented reality, again, the Delta demo sort of just,
oh yeah,
the Delta, what's it called? Parallel reality, which was, I'd never seen anything like that. If for those of you who didn't see it, first of all, it's worth going to look up on the CES highlights and sites. I'm sure it's all over YouTube. Delta's actually designed something that using a barcode on your ticket, I think it is, that you can look up at his screen and see all the details of your in the airport. Look up at his screen, see all the details you need personally about your flight, about anything related to it, and there'll be 10 other people standing right next to you who are looking at the same screen, and each of them, based on the barcode on their ticket, or whatever code they're using on a ticket, will see something separate on the very same screen you're looking at, which is absolutely off the charts amazing.
Right.
And, we were speculating on Twisted Pixels and, trying to figure out, which is the name of a group I think you DJ, right?
Well, how can 5 people look at the same thing and see 5 uniquely customized, personalized views?
Beats me. All I know is it's amazing. Did you see that when you were there?
I did not see that. In fact, I did everything I could to stay off the convention floor. So I took my CES experience in Las Vegas from the internet. But that and the Sony car were talked about quite a bit. The thing about Delta that I thought was really interesting. Well, one, Brent, that's your airline, right?
I haven't flown anything other than Delta in like 3 years.
Yeah, that was a demonstration. I mean, if you think about it, 2020, and we still have these horrible plane tickets that whoever designed those, I think, are the same people who designed parking signs. The thing I love about it, and the parallel to the Sony car, is that it really is forcing like a complete reimagination of what an experience should be, right? And when you have parallel reality, mixed reality, AR, VR, whatever you want to call it, you've got one class of people that are thinking about, hey, let's just do this and make things better. Like, for example, the early maps, hey, I'm going to hold up my phone and I'll see an overlay of like what's around, or directions, an arrow kind of virtually pointing up. And then you have this 5 people looking at the same screen and seeing all kinds of details. Like that's complete reimagination. And the Sony car, for example, you have the Tesla, which, the fantastic car. But if you look at Model 3, it's essentially a cockpit with an iPad. And then the Sony car is as if a lifestyle designer came in and said, oh, what could the interior of a car be like? And it's completely reimagined. So this, kind of paralleling back to CX and CRM, you've got an opportunity with all of these technologies to stop iterating and to start introducing the types of experiences customers get in everywhere else in their life, except with the businesses that they have to endure day in and day out, because the imagination is stifled or absent.
And actually, that goes to another thing I'd like to see. Although, by the way, when you look at early maps and you said, on your phone, I as soon as you said early maps, this shows a difference in our age. I thought, those maps of the Earth in 1683 with sea serpents coming out, and, right? It's like a sea serpent and a ship sinking, and
I thought of Magellan, so
yeah, well, it's pretty much kind of the era I was thinking. So and the other thing that occurred to me is we can't call parallel reality by its acronym. Would be a bad one. That would be bad.
Paul Rubens.
Yeah, right. Get him involved though. So to that point, and I think we are seeing some of this. I would love to see a considerable amount. I mean, we started back in 2006 to talk about things like the consumerization of business, right? And I still remember having a discussion with the CEO of BlackBerry, it was with the co-CEO of BlackBerry, about that. And I talked to him about that, which was like my main point. And I talked to him about what was called composite applications back then, which basically meant they do that now. You can take any applications interface you want, little interface, and attach everything at the back end from multiple different systems and use the interface you liked, which you can do now. But so it's effectively the level of integration that things like MuleSoft and Informatica and other things do. But back then it was like a deal in a separate industry. So I talked to him about mostly about consumerization of business, which was a really important point, because I was talking about design of the BlackBerry and all these other things. And this idiot literally gloms onto composite apps, which is like 1 minute of my discussion. I get feedback after the discussion from a good friend of mine who was working there. He says, yeah, that thing about composite apps. I said, that was like a accidental reference for 1 minute. It had nothing to do with what I was talking about. That's what he literally like. That's also why he was fired, right? Eventually.
Wow.
So anyway, but the idea of paying attention to the fact that everything's a lifestyle experience. You know, we always hear continually about the balance between work and life. That is literally not equal, right? Work is part of life, right? Life is kind of the big thing here, and work is like thing in it, right? It is not balancing the two, and it's not personal versus work. That has been in most businesses, except real hardcore, old school, blue collar businesses, 9 to 5 kind of thinking is gone a long. It's like we're making it seem like we're trying to get back to it. We're not trying. Nobody actually does that. Nobody actually does that. And in our world, of course, literally nobody does it. I mean, I remember once I was at this is again years ago, I was at the Canadian Automobile Association doing something or another. I was presenting something. And again, it was around Blackberries. So this is back in my BlackBerry era. I used to do a lot of stuff with them. So, which I totally forgot until just now, by the way. So, and I was at the Canadian Automobile Association, and we were trying to establish the fact that it's work and personal integration, right? That you're dealing with here with life. That's how life is. So I said, how many of you believe that? No one raised their hand. I said, what do you think? They all said, separation between them. I said, you don't do that. I said, all right. I said, you all have mobile devices, Blackberries, I presume. He said, how many of you at 5 o'clock at night put it in a drawer and go home and don't take it with you? And of course, no one raised their hand. Everyone takes it with them. It's their phone, right? And then I said to him, all right. I said, now let me ask you another question. How many of you who've never done a personal thing on that BlackBerry during the day when you were at work? And nobody raised their hand. I said, how many of you have never done a work thing at home during the night? And nobody raised their hand. I said, of course, because that's normal. It's the way you live, and that's how we live, and it is how we live. But what that begs in industry is, okay, well, given that's all part of a world that we're in our lives, how do you make it feel more a part of that overall life? Because it doesn't, and that's why there's a distinction, right? And to your point, Brian, somebody comes in and designs the car, the Sony car, to be aligned with the lifestyle people are actually living. You got to do the same in business, and you got to do we see a little bit of that on the employee side, but you see it, and we're starting to see more of it on the UI UX navigation side of the products and the technology, and somewhat in the workplace. And products and technology, Oracle we're seeing a lot of it with them now, and which more so than ever. And Salesforce is continually kind of doing that, and companies like on a smaller scale, companies like Pega and others are looking at it. I don't know, and doing a better and better job. But there's still an overarching, not really. I mean, everyone's talking about it, but not that many companies are actually doing it at the level that they need to make it just simply part of that work personal integration that actually already is in play.
What is it? Is it Hillel Cooperman?
Hillel, yeah.
Yeah, over at Oracle, they seem to really, from the kind of the industry perspective, they seem to really jump full bore into changing the UI to be a little bit more like your personal life than kind of the standard look and feel, which I think is great. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, a workplace is a place. Either if you're not working virtually, it's a place you go to that takes up a fairly hefty percentage of your life, right? And it should be every bit as every bit as much a happy place as anything you have in life that's happy, right? Meaning it should be a place you want to be at, right? And not only you want to be at it, but you want to be productive at it. Not only you want to be at it, you want to be accomplished at it. And you want to not only be accomplished, but you want it to be a place where you are happy to be because it does good things too and feels good to be there. All of those things are how you live.
And a place that has power, right, Brian?
Man, you had to bring it up again. My fingers are crossed down here that everything's staying online. But it's such a great point. You know, I was thinking as you both were talking that the way one of the things that I've learned in when I write a book, I have to go through this massive design process too to try to emulate how someone would read it coming off their device, you know, because these things, you know, as human beings, whether we're an employee or we're a customer or we're a husband, wife, father, son, daughter, friend, whatever it is, that UI and UX and a whole bunch of other things change the dynamics of how we think and how we operate and how we work and how we interact. And what's crazy about it is that when you come to work and you have to use whatever platform it is or whatever platforms across the board, none of that is in line with how your brain is working anymore. And it subconsciously even becomes a chore to even interact with data or interact with information or work. And that I haven't seen any studies on this yet, but that has to have a huge effect on morale and in sentiment. And maybe people aren't putting their finger on it, but design, I think, is more important than we're giving it credit for. And the faster we can make business interactions and operability not follow the traditional linear thinking or hierarchical thinking and be more dynamic, like the way somebody would order their lunch through an app or turn on lights through Alexa, you know, that's where we're going. And I think that's accelerating in places. So yes, we're seeing glimpses of new cool things, but boy, I mean, at the end of the day, that's foundational for the future of work right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I think, you know, and it'll be interesting to see, excuse me. It seems like there's a lot of activity around, you know, employee experience and I'm looking to see how, last year you saw some remnants of focus on how voice is impacting the employee experience. Like who would have thought that being able to speak to your application would actually make you want to use your application more? I mean, because it's less typing, you know, you're able to do things mobilely and you're able to talk with natural language. And I think you started to see signs of that coming into the enterprise software space. And I think it's just a matter of time before it really becomes important. I mean, remember at Adobe Summit, they did a little demo and it was a demo. I forget what the actual focus of the demo is, but the thing that I took away from it was the guy was up on stage using Adobe Experience Manager with his voice instead of trying to find, you know, looking for images where you'd have to traditionally, you know, type something in and maybe you get something back and then, you know, you got to figure out if that's good. No, it's like, all right, give me all the images of people males over the age of 40, you know, that have a happy face. And isn't it much easier to say that and get the response than it is to actually try to type that in? So I saw remnants of that. I hope this year it's more than just remnants. I want to see like a tidal wave of being able for people, employees to be able to speak to their applications and not just customer service folks. So I'm talking about all the different, you know, kinds of people, because I think that's going to make a tremendous difference in the happiness of the employee, the productivity of the employee, but also that maps back to customer experience too. And if you got employees able to speak and get things quickly, chances are they're doing that to help the customer, and that improves the customer experience. And I think all the stuff that we just talked about, you know, that's just one aspect of what, you know, kind of what could be the potential for this stuff to take hold.
Another area where actually goes to the heart of employee and customer experience too is, I mean, if you look at the vendors out there, they are reluctant, like seriously reluctant to talk about all the philanthropic work they do, right? And they all do it. I mean, everybody has something they do pretty much. And if you don't, you're a Scrooge and you better start doing it, right? If you don't start doing it, we'll call you out.
Yeah, and we will actually.
Yes, we will call you out. Right? We have no problem doing that, believe me. But if you are doing it, vendors, and this is considered as a combination of I wish this would happen in 2020 and a immediate plea, I'd like to actually see you talk about what you're doing. It actually does people good to hear it, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. You think it's marketing and it's not real if you're doing it, but it's not. I mean, you have to think about it. If you take the amount of investment of time, money, and labor that you put into doing social good, that would make it a really, really inefficient marketing campaign. If that's really, you were spending millions of dollars on something that you barely talk about, right? So, and even when the irony is, it's not marketing. It actually is valuable for you to tell people. Look, perfect example is the one I think we've used before, because we actually do love what they're doing, right? Which is Microsoft. We know Salesforce gets it. They talk about it, and they talk about it in a way no one thinks it's marketing, because look, Mark spends $200 million on a wing of a children's hospital. That would be an insanely horrible marketing campaign, right? Right. That's so expensive, right? $200 million marketing campaign. Nobody would get a budget for that, right? That's not a marketing campaign. It's real, right? Microsoft does $1.6 billion of philanthropic work every year. And they have an insane number of broad and deep initiatives. Like one of my favorite, which is actually one of their least expensive initiatives, is called AI for Good. And it covers areas ranging from sustainability, AI for sustainability. The one that's unique, actually, they have AI for cultural heritage. There AI for the earth. There's 4 of them. And they probably spend maybe, I think the number I saw was kind of small, given Microsoft, like 30, 35, 40 million. But these programs do insane amounts of actual good. You should actually, just type in Microsoft, Google and Microsoft, or Bing, Microsoft AI for Good, and check it out, because it's actually worth it. But Microsoft doesn't really talk about it. You have to kind of find it.
Well,
right?
Oracle is kind of like that with that high school. Have you been to that? You seen that high school they have on their campus? High tech.
Yeah. High tech high.
Yeah, high tech high. But it gives some folks opportunity to learn some things that they may not have learned before, and it's state of the art. I mean, it is top notch stuff, and you don't hear about that as much. They do other things too, and it's like, yeah, like to your point, I think you're doing good to do good. It's not doing good to show off. And I think sometimes it's good to let people know what you're doing, because that also will kind of empower them to start thinking, wow, we can do things too that are good. And it's not about the PR, but it is about letting folks know that you're trying to be a good corporate partner, a community partner, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think there's it was good to see, you're seeing more and more, at least 2019, you saw more and more companies doing that and integrating that into their story. But I think there's a lot more that can be done, and maybe 2020 we'll see even more of that happening.
Yeah, well, do we live in some interesting times, and whether we want to call it reskilling or employee agility, continuous learning and development, we have that philanthropical sort of mindset that could also look at our workforce and the communities of employees around campuses, really helping people adapt for tomorrow's skill sets, tomorrow's needs now, especially since Paul, you're talking about AI for good. That AI for good internally as well should be a huge mandate, right? Because we look at the automation of, say, the jobs that we're doing today frees up time to do something new or something creative that there's not a lot of leadership around that. Certainly a lot of fear as to what that's going to mean to me, or maybe confusion. Is it going to affect me? But it really is a tremendous opportunity to kind of bring that education element to say, these are the things that we can be doing, or these are the things that the workforce is going to be doing together, and bringing that work internally, and then also not turning it into a marketing campaign, but turning it into a marketing campaign that's great for recruitment, bringing in great minds, great people who want to learn and do new things, and be a partner with AI and machine learning and all of the automation out there.
Well, I have a proposal for the players here. So what about once a quarter at least, if not more, we have a show devoted to something we find philanthropically outstanding, right? It could be multi-vendor, it could be singular vendor, but in other words, if the vendors aren't going to do it, we will, right? We'll make them talk, right?
Talk.
Right.
Talk about that good thing you did. Come on. It's that, but the other thing, it's the kind of the relationship they have with customers when they do good. Like, I'll never forget last year at ServiceNow, Farrell. I mean, when she was on stage with I forget the company, but when we had a chance to talk with Farrell after, and is it Farrell Huff?
Farrell Huff, yes.
Yeah.
Farrell Huff. And
the thing that stood out in that few minutes we had with her is we asked her about the connection she had on stage with the customer, that healthcare organization. I can't remember it right now. And how that played a role into the work that they did. And it was visibly obvious how that went beyond the traditional client vendor relationship. They met in a much deeper place, and that much deeper place led to some good that Farrell said, I didn't even realize what people were doing with our platform. But when she had that experience, it went beyond just, this is great for a customer case study. No, it was about the good that this relationship did that went beyond the traditional. And I think those are things too. It's not about, it's not a traditional case study. It was just, wow, these guys have something heavy going on here that goes well beyond, the traditional here.
And you feel it.
It was definitely something that the audience felt it.
Yeah. Well, you remember at Dreamforce 2 years ago when I thought it was probably the best. I thought it was an inflection point for Salesforce. Actually, the keynote, they did the United Way video where the CEO of United Way talked about. He was talking about, of course, ultimately why he was getting involved with Salesforce to do XYZ with Philanthropy Cloud, but really he talked about why he was involved in philanthropy, period, and ultimately United Way, and talked about how he was a swim instructor for special needs kids who the only time they even smiled was when they were in the water where they could move, right? And even now it makes me want to cry, right? But everybody, the whole audience was in tears. I mean, it was just so unbelievably moving. And so, but that's what I'm saying. This is actual people and actual lives, and that's what this has always been about, right? Ultimately, businesses are institutions that are part of people's lives. That's what they are. Right. And we get on the earth and we try to be happy with our life, and we go through all that journey to be happy with our life. And in the course of that, we realize, okay, well, we got to work and we got to deal with companies that, we need to buy stuff from, ranging from absolute necessities like food, and I originally thought electricity, but apparently PG, so that's all that necessary. So, things like that to, things like whatever, like lots of toys. Which, I'm definitely subject to. So, but we've always bifurcated all of it. We tend to do that just because we tend to do it. And now we're trying to overcome the bifurcation, make the path to life non-linear, but smooth nonetheless. Meaning we don't come to a point where we say, well, that's not part of life, right? Which is what happens when you walk in a work day half the time. I wish I wasn't here means that I wish it wasn't part of my life, right? So the idea is to make you wish everything was part of your life, right? And you know what? As right-brained as that all is, there's lots of left-brain things you can do to make that happen. So, and that's kind of what we do, what we're trying to do, I think. And I think that you bring out the humanity of the efforts that companies are making. You bring in the use of the technologies for the benefit of people as a whole. You do things that make things convenient for others, which is where UI, UX, and just doing your operational stuff right comes in. But ultimately, because we're focused on the customer, which is ultimately just a person who happens to be at that moment buying something, right? Or doing something. It's a constituent by another name. It's an employee by another name. It's a sleeping human being by another name, right? So sound asleep, right? But it's ultimately just a person. And that's what everything we do as the Playaz that, I know for 11 years, one of the things Brent and I have always tried to do, and now we got another one of those amazing humans, is to humanize the whole thing. That's all we've ever done. And humor is a big part of it too, by the way. Don't forget that part.
Humor and power.
Yeah, that's right. Now again, my age shows up. I thought, oh yeah, power to the people.
Oh yeah. Gotta be careful.
Straight back to the 60s with that one. So
you know what though? I mean, you kind of wrap it up because I know we gotta close out here. But all you just talked about, it does fit back into kind of the whole idea of customer journey and being able to piece all these things together. And that's why you're seeing these platforms. To me, I think the power of the platform is to be able to kind of unleash some of the things we just talked about, because those are these kind of experiences are the things I think that go beyond the traditional vendor customer relationship, and that going beyond is what makes people want to stay customers for long, because it's not just about the price or the feature, because you can pretty much get what you want from a variety of different places. But if you're able to kind of connect that customer journey to trust and kind of the emotion of being able to do great things together, I think that's when you do have a customer journey that extends for a long time. And you need a platform that allows you to do that. So there are ways to bring it together, and it shouldn't be all one thing, all technology talk, or it probably shouldn't be all, heart talk, because you got to figure out how to connect this stuff to actually get to that end result. And I think that's why 2020 should be a really pivotal year for all that kind of stuff.
I see that 100%. And again, back to my initial hope and aspiration element to all of this is that you should want to not just improve or iterate or jump on trend. You should want to deliver those experiences to your employees and your customers that yield everything that's good, that finally unleashes all of those things that we've been complaining about for years to do things that leave other people feeling great, right? There's nothing like that moment, whether it's human or delivered through technology, when someone feels like they were heard, or someone feels like they're satisfied, or someone feels like they accomplished something. And those are things that are all too often just few and far between.
Yeah. Amen, brother. Amen, brother. So, okay. So more work on bringing the home into the workplace, in a manner of speaking, right? More work on making these literally shaking the shoulders of companies so that they'll start talking about the good that they do. All right. What else? More work on no more forecasts. I predict I predict a pivotal year every year, so I stopped doing that one, by the way. I just have to tell you, I literally do it. Just every year I said this will be a pivotal year. And it is for something. Always. You're never wrong on that forecast, I have to say. This is going to be a pivotal year. And it usually is, right? For something else, whatever. But okay, no more forecast. Brent DJ. Okay, that's actually going to happen at the end of February.
Yeah, but I want to
you want it at a vendor conference. At the end of February, Brent is DJing at the Ambient Experience Conference in Atlanta during the what is it called? The Insomniac.
Yeah, Ray Wong has a way of coming up with things, how to name things.
And they're mostly due to his actual sleep habits.
Let me just do a quick shout out. Mike Boyson. Good to hear from him. He said he'd like to see fewer solutions looking for a problem and more problems with well-defined success metrics. Yeah, I could go along with that. I vouch for that.
No,
and Benjamin Nowak. Nice to see hear from him. Competitive differentiators for businesses, workflow automation, UX, UI. I think we talked about the UX. Wow. And Paul is like frozen in the best pose of all.
It's the best.
This is like, we used to try when we did our podcast, we did the theme from Police Squad. And, they would do at the end of that show, they would do that fake, like the pause thing that they did in the old shows. So they would do a fake one. Oh, and a monkey would come through and start. Yeah, the monkey would come through and start. He is literally doing
that best. I just captured that. I'm going to send that around.
All right. Well, I guess Paul has nothing more to say, so I'll just say, oh, there he's totally gone now. All right. So I'm Brent.
I'm Brian.
And for Paul, we are the CRM Players, and we will see you next time. All right. That